Hey everybody, Ryan Jackson here. Hope you're having a great day. So we're going to talk about 250.109 in this video, which I think may end up being kind of a longer video. We're going to talk about using metal enclosures as part of the effective ground fault current path. That concept was added back in 2020. But then we've also got a lot of new language about using non-metallic enclosures with metal wiring methods. And a lot of this material was found back in the boxes article in 314, and it probably should have been in Article 250 all along, if we're being perfectly honest. So a lot of this was written by my friend Chuck Mello, who just writes some delicious code every time he gets to work. And we'll see what Chuck and the members of Code Making Panel 5 have in store for us. Article 250, grounding and bonding. 250.109, metal and non-metallic enclosures. The rules for non-metallic enclosures used with metal wiring methods were added. And like I said, I say they were added. I mean, the code has covered them for a long time, but not in Article 250, which is where it probably should be covered. 250.109A is nice and easy. Metal enclosures may be used to connect bonding jumpers and equipment grounding conductors, and they may be used as part of the effective ground fault current path. Okay, so the big question here was, do you need a bonding jumper to tie these terminal bars to each other? Or can you just use the metal enclosure itself? And the answer, of course, is you can use the metal enclosure. That's totally fine. Now, be careful. If you look at 200.2, you don't get to use a metal enclosure as a neutral conductor, even if it's at the service disconnect. But when it comes to grounding and bonding equipment, sure, we can use the metal enclosure as part of the effective ground fault current path. We always have, and we probably always will, whether we like it or not, right? I mean, it's part of the fault current path. Number 2 says metal covers, plaster rings, extension rings, or fittings must be attached to metal enclosures in a way that ensures an effective ground fault current path, or with a bonding jumper or equipment grounding conductor. Again, nothing new here. That's exactly what the 2023 code said as well. Now, you might notice that this this receptacle is installed sideways with the ungrounded pins facing up. Bonus points to you if you know what city in America always does it this way. Put it down in the comments and we'll see if you get it right. There's an informational note here that reminds us that Section 250.97 talks about bonding for circuits exceeding 250 volts to ground. So what 250.97 says is if you have a 277 480 volt circuit, right, something that exceeds 250 volts to ground, you have to bond around your concentric knockouts unless the knockouts are listed for grounding and bonding. So here, if you squint your eyes and turn your head sideways, I think that might even have made it worse. Maybe you can see that it's a concentric knockout. We've bonded around it as required by 250.97. But let's get into what we came for. This is the change. 250.109B1, bonding non-metallic enclosures that use metal wiring methods. Now, look, I know as soon as you see this picture, you're like, oh man, I know. There's a million problems in this one, not just grounding and bonding. But let's focus on the grounding and bonding. The issue that we're trying to clarify here. What are the rules for using metal wiring methods with non-metallic enclosures? Let's just pretend that there's a nice clean half-inch knockout and there's a proper cable connector. Do me a favor, don't focus on that. Focus on the lack of bonding, because that's what's probably going to kill somebody here. Non-metallic boxes and enclosures with metal wiring methods must comply with one of the following different methods. All right, option 1. For listed enclosures with integral bonding means that can bond metal covers and interconnect all metal fittings and connections of wiring methods, no additional bonding is required. Okay. I haven't seen, or at least I don't remember seeing, a box that meets all of those conditions. I'm sure they're out there. If you know of a product, write it in the comments, but here's the deal. For this box, if I had, let's say I've got MC cable supplying it. This is a non-metallic box. So I come into the back here with a couple pieces of MC cable, and I've got lock nuts, the whole ball of wax, and I splice their equipment grounding conductors together, and then I tie it to this screw. Some people, when they look at this box, they're like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. A plastic box with a ground terminal? Well, yeah, it's not to bond the box. It's to bond the cover, right? Because look how it attaches to the 632 opening here. So now if I have a metal cover, then it bonds the metal cover, right? So that's what that's for. If I had a metal wiring, so going back to that MC cable, I would still probably have to have a bonding bushing on that MC cable to keep it from becoming energized. Now, depending on what's on the other end of the circuit, maybe that MC cable terminates to a metal box. If that's the case, then I might not have to do anything. But let's say it starts at a box like this and ends at a box like this. You're going to have a bond bushing on those MC cables to ensure that if there was ever a fault to the cable, that a breaker would trip, right? If I didn't bond it, then if I had a fault to the cable armor, then the cable would become energized and would stay energized. Whereas if I had a bonding bushing and a properly sized bonding jumper, if I faulted against the armor, then the fault current would travel on that bonding bushing, travel back on the equipment grounding conductor, back to the source, trip the protective device, and we would be safe. Option 2. For other non-metallic enclosures like this thing, right? This is the mounting box for an EVSE equipment. For other non-metallic enclosures, all metal wiring methods, fittings, and connections must be bonded with bonding jumpers, and that's exactly what we've done here. So this is a proper connection. We've used metal wiring methods going into this non-metallic enclosure. We've connected it with a bonding bushing to ensure that if there's ever a fault to that raceway, it wouldn't simply energize the raceway and remain energized. That fault current would travel back on the equipment grounding conductor and open the circuit protective device. There's an exception here that says additional bonding is not required if you comply with all of the following. So look at this example here. Only one metal wiring method is installed. The wiring method is bonded. Any device or equipment within the box is connected to a bonding jumper or wire type equipment grounding conductor that's installed within the metal wiring method, and the enclosure is accessible. Okay, so looking at this, is this compliant? We've got a non-metallic box, and we have a metal wiring method going into or out of it. Is that compliant? Well, we already know that we could have a bonding bushing on the back of that plate, and that would satisfy the rule. Do I absolutely unequivocally have to have a bonding bushing onto that? No, depending on what the other end goes to. If the other end goes to a bonded system, right, a metal box connected to an equipment ground, or if there's a bonding bushing on the other side, then I don't need it on both sides, and that's what the exception here is trying to clarify. So this stuff was kind of discussed in 314.3 in previous versions of the code. Number one, it was okay. It wasn't perfect. I mean, it's hard to write perfect code. But number two, it was in the wrong place, right? You shouldn't go to the box bonding article, to the box article, to find out the grounding and bonding requirements for not just the box, but the metal wiring method itself, right? So good job in relocating the text. Okay, 250.109b2, bonding non-metallic enclosures with metal covers. Metal covers must be connected to an equipment grounding conductor or integral bonding means. All right, so here you've got your plastic box with a metal cover, right? And that's what 250.109b2 is talking about. How do you ensure that if you touch an energized wire to that metal faceplate, it doesn't become and remain energized. Well, we ensure that by connecting the metal faceplate to an equipment grounding conductor or integral bonding means, right? And the code doesn't tell you exactly how you do that. You know, you could have one of those boxes that we looked at earlier where the 632 hole has the metal parts that has the terminal, you know, connected right to it, so that 632 is connected to the equipment grounding conductor. Can you use the device to bond the cover? Sure. You can never use the cover to bond the device, right? But you can sometimes use the device to bond the cover. Take a look at 250.146 for some clarity on how to do that. All right, so there you go. We took a code section that was covered, kind of, not especially great, and in the wrong part of the code, put it where it's supposed to go, rework the language, and I think we're left with a pretty solid set of requirements for using metal wiring methods that terminate to non-metallic boxes and enclosures. All right, we have one more video to do on Article 250, and that's going to be on 250.122, talking about how you size the equipment grounding conductor for parallel installations. So kind of a big change there. Hope you'll join me then, and I hope you'll be safe out there, and take care. See you next time.